Everyone keeps talking about what a Trump win means for electric vehicles in general, but almost nobody is slowing down enough to ask a much more interesting question. What does it actually mean for a company like Aptera? Because once you strip away the headlines, the tweets, and the emotional reactions on both sides, you start to realize something surprising. The political shift that looks like bad news for EVs on the surface might quietly turn out to be one of the biggest competitive advantages Aptera has ever had. I've been very open in the past about the downsides of having a president who openly wants to remove EV tax credits and who repeatedly spreads inaccurate information about electric vehicles. We've all heard the talking point. EVs can only drive for an hour, they take forever to charge, charging stations cost billions of dollars each, and the grid can't handle them. These claims have been repeated so often that they've become background noise, even though they're objectively wrong. What's more frustrating is that some of these statements continued even after high-profile figures in the EV world publicly endorsed him, without ever stepping in to correct the record. So yes, on the surface, it sounds like a nightmare scenario for the EV space. But here's where things get more nuanced. There is a legitimate argument to be made that EV tax credits were never meant to last forever. As electric vehicles move from being a niche product into the mainstream, it becomes harder to justify the federal government subsidizing every single sale. At some point, EVs have to stop being treated as special and just become cars. And if we're being honest, that transition was always inevitable. The original justification for EV tax credits was relatively simple. Gasoline has been artificially affordable for decades because oil is heavily subsidized, directly and indirectly, due to how deeply it affects the cost of living. Transportation, food, manufacturing, and logistics all rely on fuel prices staying low. That meant gas vehicles benefited from a system that hid their true cost. EV tax credits were supposed to level that playing field, at least temporarily, and encourage early adopters to take a risk on a newer technology. The government was essentially saying, we know this is different, we know it's more expensive up front, and we appreciate you being willing to learn charging, range planning, and infrastructure, so we'll help absorb part of that cost. Even that argument, though, has been getting weaker over time. Battery prices have fallen, charging networks have expanded, and EVs are no longer some exotic experiment. And then vehicles like Aptera enter the conversation and completely disrupt the old logic. Aptera exposes one of the biggest flaws in how EV incentives were structured in the first place. If the goal of EV tax credits was to reward efficiency and environmental responsibility, then the system was backwards from day one. Aptera didn't qualify for the federal EV tax credit simply because it has 3 wheels instead of 4. That single technicality erased any recognition of the fact that it can travel hundreds of miles on a relatively tiny battery, includes modern safety systems, and in many conditions can literally generate its own energy through solar charging. There is no other production vehicle that creates its own fuel over time. By any rational environmental metric, Aptera should have been at the top of the incentive list, not excluded entirely. This is where the slow, rigid nature of federal policy becomes obvious. Regulations are built for conventional categories, and anything that doesn't fit neatly into those boxes gets ignored. Aptera fell into that gap. It wasn't built around incentives, and it wasn't optimized to game the system. It was built around efficiency first, and ironically, that made it invisible to the very policies that were supposed to encourage innovation. Now here's the twist that most people miss. The removal of EV tax credits doesn't hurt Aptera nearly as much as it hurts everyone else. In fact, you could argue it helps Aptera more than any EV manufacturer on the market. Think about how people usually react when Aptera's price and specs come up. A sub-$40,000 vehicle with around 400 miles of range, solar charging, and ultra-low operating costs sounds incredible, but the immediate response is often, yeah, but after the tax credit, I can get a Model 3 or a Model Y for about the same price. That comparison only exists because of subsidies. Take those away, and suddenly every mainstream EV jumps up by $7,500 overnight. That instantly levels the playing field in a way Aptera has never experienced before. The pricing advantage that large automakers relied on disappears, while Aptera's core value proposition stays exactly the same. Aptera was never counting on a federal handout to make its numbers work. Its entire design philosophy is about removing cost at the source rather than offsetting it later. When you look at manufacturing efficiency, this advantage becomes even clearer. Aptera has fewer wheels, fewer axles, fewer suspension components, fewer seats, fewer doors, no paint shop, and drastically reduced complexity overall. Every one of those decisions eliminates cost permanently. Traditional automakers, whether it's Tesla, Ford, GM, or Hyundai, still carry the burden of building four-wheeled vehicles with all the associated systems that come with that architecture. Those costs don't disappear just because tax credits do. Without federal subsidies smoothing things over, efficiency in manufacturing suddenly matters a lot more. Aptera gets to keep all of those savings instead of watching competitors offset their inefficiencies with government incentives. This is where Aptera's unconventional design stops being a curiosity and starts becoming a weapon. Of course, tariffs complicate the picture. A Trump administration has made it very clear that import tariffs are part of the plan, and those will affect the automotive industry across the board. Aptera does source some components from overseas, and that means certain parts could become more expensive. But this isn't an Aptera-specific problem. Every automaker with a global supply chain will feel the impact. Tesla, for example, has done an impressive job localizing much of its supply chain in North America, which could reduce its exposure to tariffs. But tariffs are applied per component, not per vehicle. Even if Tesla avoids tariffs on some parts, it still has more parts overall. More seats, more doors, more wheels, more suspension systems. Aptera may pay tariffs on fewer components simply because it uses fewer components to begin with. And there's another overlooked detail here. EV tax credits didn't just help consumers at the point of purchase, they also provided incentives to manufacturers, particularly around battery production. Tesla, for instance, has been generating significant revenue from manufacturing battery packs in the United States. Those incentives were paid on a per kilowatt-hour basis, which made large battery packs especially attractive. That dynamic shaped the entire EV market. Vehicles like the Model 3 and Model Y use battery packs around 80 kilowatt-hours, and those packs were by far the most expensive component of the vehicle. The tax credits helped justify that cost. Remove those incentives, and suddenly those large battery packs become a much bigger financial burden. Aptera, on the other hand, was never designed around large batteries. Its efficiency allows it to achieve long range with a battery pack closer to 44 kilowatt-hours. In the EV world, that's almost unheard of. And because Aptera outsourced battery pack manufacturing through a partner in South Korea, it was never built with the assumption that it would receive U.S. battery manufacturing credits anyway. In other words, nothing fundamental breaks when those incentives disappear, because they were never baked into the business model. What's even more interesting is that in Aptera's case, the battery pack isn't even the most expensive component of the vehicle. That's extremely rare in the EV space. The most expensive part is the carbon fiber composite body structure. While some of those components are currently planned to be produced in Italy, Aptera has already been shipping parts to the United States and has stated publicly that the long-term goal is to move more production domestically. Tariffs may accelerate that transition. Yes, moving tooling and stamping operations to the US requires upfront investment, but if import costs rise high enough, the math changes. Every automaker has to constantly evaluate whether it's cheaper to import or manufacture locally, and Aptera is no different. The key difference is that Aptera's simpler design makes those transitions easier and less costly compared to traditional vehicles. On the consumer side, the implications are even more dramatic. Without tax credits, the real-world purchase price of most EVs increases significantly. Add to that higher insurance costs, higher registration fees, and increased repair complexity for four-wheeled vehicles packed with sensors and proprietary systems, and ownership costs climb even further. Aptera sidesteps much of this. As an auto cycle, it often benefits from lower registration and insurance costs. It embraces right-to-repair principles, reducing long-term maintenance expenses. It doesn't rely on an expensive proprietary self-driving computer. Instead, it integrates with an off-the-shelf solution that's already proven and widely used, keeping costs down while still offering advanced driver assistance. All of these small decisions compound. Individually, they might not seem revolutionary, but together they create a vehicle that's fundamentally cheaper to build, cheaper to buy, and cheaper to own. When subsidies vanish and tariffs reshape global supply chains, those fundamentals become impossible to ignore. This is why the idea that a Trump win is universally bad for EVs holds up under closer inspection. It may slow down adoption at the margins, and it will certainly challenge companies that relied heavily on incentives to remain competitive. But for a company like Aptera, which was never dependent on those incentives and never structured its costs around them, the shift could be transformative. If EV tax credits disappear, competitors become more expensive overnight. If tariffs increase, inefficiency gets punished. If battery incentives go away, oversized battery packs become a liability rather than an advantage. In every one of those scenarios, Aptera's design philosophy shines. That doesn't mean there are no risks. Policy uncertainty always introduces volatility, and transitioning supply chains is never trivial. But the difference is that Aptera enters this environment from a position of structural efficiency rather than artificial support. It was built for a world where cost matters, not one where cost can be temporarily ignored. When you zoom out, the bigger picture becomes clear. Aptera isn't trying to win by outspending legacy automakers or out-subsidizing them. It's trying to win by redefining what an EV needs to be in the first place. Fewer parts, less energy, lower cost, more independence from external systems, whether that's charging infrastructure or government incentives. So while many EV manufacturers may be scrambling to adjust their pricing models and profit margins in response to political change, Aptera may find itself in the strongest position it's ever been in, not because the system favors it, but because it never needed the system to work in its favor to begin with. That's the irony here. The same policies that look hostile to EVs could end up accelerating the success of the most efficient EV on the market. And in a landscape where affordability and practicality matter more than ever, that might be the most important advantage of all.